Won't you take me home?
This is a review of the LEGO remote-controlled Signal 12V, which is set number 7860. But like my review of the 7862 remote-controlled decoupling, this isn't just a review, but a sealed opening. I was lucky enough to get this set for a really good price from the west coast of the United States, so let's start the review with a clip of me opening the factory sealed set. I'm about to open a LEGO 7860 remote-controlled Signal from the 12-volt gray era that started in 1980. Now, I got this set, just like the 7862, for a very good price sealed. It was only $100 US. This set usually is about $250 sealed. And I got it from a seller in the United States, which I am very happy about because I don't have to use international shipping now. I'm hoping this is still originally sealed. I believe it to be originally sealed. It has the cellophane wrapping on it. And that's the set. You can see in the front of the box, the back of the box. There's a little bit of damage on the right side, but hopefully it is still originally sealed, and I guess it's time to open it. I already own two of this set, but I don't have any with the original box or instructions, so this is new to me. I think this is the first time that anyone has opened this set sealed on all of YouTube. Alright, so you can see the styrofoam inner tray. This is the early version box. I don't know what part variants will be inside, whether they're from the early 1980s or the later, so let's see. So, inside we have the instructions. I do already have a copy of the instructions. I think this is the same one that I already have. Yes. Now, let's take a look at the parts. So this is the control panel. See the date. The date is 23/2, so this is an early release of the set. That's the first version control panel because you can hear the clicking. The signal light here. The two cables. I don't know what that is, glue or something maybe. These are the later, the later but not too late versions. So these have the middle pins and the connectors. The early ones did not have any middle pins. Oh, so these sleepers do not have cable grooves, which are the earlier version, which is interesting. Here are the light gray plates for the controller and the signal post. The signal bracket. The 1x16 lattice, 4 of the 12 volt or 4.5 volt outer rails, and then let's see the middle rails. So these are the special isolating rails for the signals, and they have the metal blocks in the middle. And then there's also a 1981 train brochure, which I actually got the same one of in my decoupler. So I think that's it for this clip. I have opened this set on camera now, sealed, and I will continue with my review now. Thanks for watching. This supplemental set was released in 1980 at the beginning of the Gray Era, and its production continued until 1993. The 7860 is a very important set in any 12-volt layout because it allows for a train to be stopped in a certain area by cutting the power between two breaker rails. The set isn't big, only containing parts for 2 special track segments, the signal post and the electric remote. First, there are 4 standard sleeper plates and 4 outer straight rails. The set came with both versions of the sleeper, 767, the early variant without cable grooves, and 4166, the later variant with cable grooves. I have here the earlier variant without cable grooves. There are also 2 special center conducting rails, right here. You can see in the nearer metal plate, right here, there's a block of plastic and 2 cable holes on either side, plus a black arrow to easier see where the block is. There were 3 variants of the special breaker rail. The early version, produced starting in 1980, had the interruption in the center and no black arrow. The second variant, released in the mid-1980s, although I don't know the specific year, also had the interruption at the center, but had the printed black arrow. The final version, released towards the end of the 1980s, had the interruption towards the end of the middle rail segment, and also had the black arrow. All 3 copies of 7860 I own have the middle variant of the breaker rail, which had the plastic block in the middle and black arrows. More on the special rails when I explain how the entire set works, because it's a bit complicated. The set also includes a few small plates, a bracket, a 1x16 stud lattice, and the electric light to build a working signal post. The electric light has 2 bulbs, green on top and red on bottom, similar to a real railroad signal. The back of the brick has studs to attach it to the lattice, like so. And the bottom has a plug hole. I'm not sure how the electric components work inside, but I do know that when you apply current in one direction, the red light activates, and current from the opposite direction activates the green light. When you build the signal post, there's a wire that wraps around the lattice to connect to the signal light. The final part of the set includes the cables, remote control, and plates to attach the remote control to the left side of the transformer. This set has 2 cables, one always with 2 two-prong connectors which connect to the signal post, and one with one two-prong connector on the end that connects to the remote, right here, and then either 2 one-prong connectors or 1 wide 2-prong connector on the end that connects to the track. For the second cable, all sets that included the first or second variant of the breaker rails had 2 one-prong connectors, and when the last variant of the rail was released, it had the single wide connector. Additionally, early releases of every 2-prong connector in the set did not have a middle pin, and later releases had the middle pin. This copy of the signal has the middle cable variants with 2 one-prong connectors for the rail connection and 2 prong connectors with the middle pin. The remote is standard for electric accessories, but it does have 2 jacks on the top. They're actually here are the jacks. There are actually 2 variants of the remote as well. The early variant makes an audible click when either button is pressed down, but the later variant is smooth and does not have a click. The plug holes on the left were also changed, although I don't know when. So here's an example of an earlier variant dated from 1981. You can see on the bottom, maybe it's a little bit hard to see, but I can get the light to catch it right. I don't know, the date on the top, printed right here, is 41-1, which means it was produced in the 41st week of 1981. So this is the clicking that I'm talking about. And then here's a later variant, dated from, I believe it's the 47th week of 1987. You can see that right here, 4707. And this also has the newer plug holes on the left side here, which are, here's compared to the earlier variant, they don't have the metal rim around them. And then when I talk about the later clicking, it's much smoother, and there's no clicking, no resistance. These remotes are from my 2 other copies of 7860. The copy I'm reviewing has the early style buttons and early style plug holes, and it's dated from the 23rd week in 1982. So that's the clicking, and then right on here, if I can get the light to catch it, it says 23-2 on the top. Of course, the set also comes with 2 2x8 light gray plates to connect to the remote of the transformer. That's it for the contents for the set. Now I'll explain how the set works. Now that all of the history regarding part variants has been explained, it's time to understand what makes this set special. There are actually two electrically separate parts of the set, the isolating rails and the signal post. The first and simpler part is the signal post light. When the right button is pressed, current from the left jack of the remote turns the light green. When the left button is pressed, current flips and the light turns red. Although this part is what looks cool, it's not actually doing the work. The right jack of the remote control right here connects to either of the breaker track segments. Here it's connected to the one nearest to the camera. And those two breaker track segments must be pointing in the same way so that the plastic blocks are on the same rail. This isolates the section of track in between the two plastic blocks. So right now, the isolated section is between these two black arrows. The wire that connects to either of them, so it can be connected to either of the track segments, it has one plug on either side of the breaker plastic blocks. So here's how it works. If there's electricity supplied from the transformer running through the rest of the track, so imagine that both sides of this signal part here are all powered. So if there's current running through there and the signal is red, then when a motor has all of its contacts on the isolated section of track between the two breaker points, it will stop the power going to that motor. When the signal turns green, what happens is the electricity from outside the isolated section goes through this wire on the near side of the breaker block all the way into the transformer, or into the remote control, the right jack, and then what the right jack does when the light is green is it connects those two plugs. So when the light is green, it will connect that, and then the same electricity that comes from this side of the rail goes down the other side and supplies power to the isolated section, and it behaves just like a regular section of the track. So the exact same current that is in the rest of the track goes to the isolated section when the light is green. So here's a diagram from the instructions to help. On the left side, you can see that the signal is red and the black section is the isolated section between those two breaker points. And current goes one way to the light, and then of course the red and blue colors are representing different current flows. And when the light is red, you can see in the remote the section of the wire that connects to the section of track outside of the breaker rails is not connected to the black wire. Then on the right side, when the light is turned green, current goes the opposite way to the signal light, and then it connects the circuit inside of the remote from the outside of the breaker rail section to the inside of it. Here we have a simple oval layout with the 7860 installed on the closer side. The two isolating blocks from the signal are here and here. The track is connected to the transformer through this wire here. It's important that the connection to the transformer is outside of the section of track isolated by the breaker rails, otherwise switching the signal to red will shut off power to the entire track outside the isolating section. Let's see this in action. I have a 7730 steam engine right here, so I'll put it on the track. Right now the signal is green, so I can supply power to the track and the motor will be active all the way around. The wire that connects to the track is connecting the outside part to the isolated section. Current flows all the way down this side of the side of the wire to the transformer, where it connects the two prongs of the cable, and then the current flows back to the isolated section when the signal is green. I should add that it is very important that both plastic blocks be on the same side of the track, otherwise the blocks won't actually isolate a section of the track. If I switch the remote to red, it cuts the connection between the two prongs of track, and the isolated section has no power going to it. When both sets of contacts pass into the isolated section of the track, there is no power going to the motor, and so it stops. Let's see that again. The first version of the box, produced from 1980 to 1989, had an outer box plus a styrofoam inner tray, just like many other supplemental sets. In 1999, many boxes were redesigned, and the second version of the 7860 box was smaller and had a clear plastic inner tray. I have the first version of the box in my copy. As you can see, there's some damage to the right side of the box, and the front right part is bowed in a little bit. Back of the box has some details about the contents of the set and a small picture of the set in action. Inside, the styrofoam tray has a small compartment on the left for the remote control and a main section on the right for everything else. I also have a copy of the instructions and the original brochure from 1981. The instructions are very simple because there really aren't many pieces to assemble in this set. It shows how to build a signal post and connect the wires to the track and the remote to the transformer. And then it also has a small important section that says that you have to place the breaker rails farther apart if the train is going faster, because what will happen if you place them too close together on a real layout is the momentum from the train will carry it right over the breakers, right over the isolated section, and even if the signal is red, it won't actually do much. And then there's a bit of troubleshooting if the light is the wrong color, and then the small diagram that I explained earlier. And then in this set, I also got the original 1981 mini train brochure, and you can tell that it's from 1981 because it has the 7740 on the right cover, and then it also features the 7725 and the 7862 right there, and those were only released in 1981, so you know it's 1981. It also features some of the 4.5 volt sets and the larger layout to the right. You can also see that it is 1981, copyright 1981, Lego Group. Typically the set sells for between $60 and $90 in used condition, depending if you want the box and instructions. Because it's not an actual train set, the box isn't very expensive, with most listings for an empty box being between $10 and $25. Sealed copies go for around $250 or more and are quite rare. This set contains many expensive parts, including the signal light, isolating rails, and remote. On its own, in a simple layout, the 7860 doesn't do much, especially with only one train. However, the 7860 really shines in larger layouts with complex sidings and switch yards because you can run several trains with one transformer. Without this set, it would be virtually impossible to build big layouts without train collisions. In my opinion, this set is one of the most important sets of the gray era, and as a rule, I try to have at least as many signals as trains in any layout, because otherwise it's hard to secure all the trains if you need to. Collisions can happen if you have multiple trains running at the same time, which is what the 7860 prevents. I got the 2 used copies that I owned back in Christmas of 2020, and since I'm starting to purchase some more trains, I wanted to get a third. I'm very happy that I was able to get a sealed copy without having to buy internationally and also pay much less than market price. In case you didn't know, I paid around $100 for this copy, which is a really, really good deal. That concludes my review of the 7860. Thanks for watching. I apologize if this video feels like it was dense. I always try to explain everything fully. I also apologize if it feels like it was a little bit choppy. I script my reviews and sometimes I lose my place in the script and then I have to go find my place again. So I wasn't sure that I would do this review now because I was able to purchase a sealed copy of the set. I thought it would be a good idea to do the review with a near unused set. Same with the 7862 review. This weekend, I should have some time to review the 7750 and set up a nice big layout, so stay updated for some major videos coming out soon. I'll see you in the next video.
We can run away.